Flying should be safe. But sometimes, in just a few seconds, everything goes terribly wrong. In this video, you will see real aviation accidents caught on camera in the final moments before impact. We are not here to glorify tragedy, but to understand what happened and to remember the people who were lost. Viewer discretion is advised. Watch carefully and think about how fragile every flight and every life really is. On April 3, 2019, an Airbus helicopter's H145, call sign Dragon 972, from the French Civil Security, was performing a rescue near the shoreline of Schoelcher on the island of Martinique. With a survivor and a rescue diver hanging on the hoist below, the helicopter struck 3 high-voltage power lines, cutting the cables and briefly losing altitude before the crew regained control. The winch cable snapped, but both people fell into the sea and managed to swim safely to shore while the helicopter returned for a safe landing. On September 2, 2023, a Piper PA-25 Pawnee was performing a gender reveal stunt over San Pedro Navalato in Sinaloa, Mexico, releasing a trail of pink smoke to announce a baby girl. Seconds later, as seen in the video, the left wing failed and the aircraft spiraled out of control before crashing beyond the party area. The pilot was rescued from the wreckage but later died from his injuries, while everyone on the ground survived. On the 19th of July 2020, a Flight Design CTSW ultralight was on approach to land at Eggersdorf Airfield, EDCE, near Müncheberg in Brandenburg, Germany. During the final approach, the airplane veered off course and crashed into the control tower, destroying the aircraft and damaging the building. The pilot and his passenger survived with only minor injuries, and no one on the ground was hurt. On the 2nd of April 2010, one of the saddest days for the Brazilian Air Force Smoke Squadron, Captain Anderson Amaro Fernandes was performing an airshow display at Lajes Airport in Santa Catarina, Brazil. During a low-altitude maneuver, his Embraer T-27 Tucano struck the ground beside the runway and burst into flames. Captain Fernandes did not survive the crash, and the Brazilian Air Force opened an investigation, but the exact cause of the accident has not been made public. On the 16th of May 2019, a U.S. Air National Guard F-16C Fighting Falcon experienced an in-flight emergency while approaching March Air Reserve Base in Riverside County, California. The pilot ejected safely seconds before the jet crashed through the roof of a commercial warehouse, starting a fire and injuring several people on the ground. Thanks to the timely ejection and fast rescue response, there were no fatalities in this dramatic accident. On 25 January 2019, over the Rutor Glacier near La Tuile in Italy's Aosta Valley, an Airbus helicopter's AS350 B3, registration IEDIC, operated by GM Helicopters, was flying a heliski mission at high altitude. In uncontrolled airspace, it collided in mid-air with a Jodel D-140E light aircraft on a training flight, and both aircraft broke apart and crashed onto the glacier. 7 of the 9 people on board the two machines were killed, while 1 passenger from the helicopter and 1 pilot from the airplane survived with serious injuries. On 7 April 2013, during the Caribbean Air Show over the waterfront of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, an ENAER T-35B Pillán trainer of the Dominican Air Force, tail number FAD-1807, was performing an aerobatic maneuver. As thousands of spectators watched from the seafront, the aircraft failed to recover from a diving turn and slammed into the Caribbean Sea. Both pilots were killed in the crash, and the rest of the air show was immediately canceled.
Así que nosotros tenemos la visión que la visión viene ahí, otra vez se invierte. Primera vez que hacen eso. Que ustedes lo van a ver en el equipo. Ahí tenemos días. Y arranca inmediatamente la ganancia de Pedro Pisano.
Está pareciendo una gaviota, loco, en el aire, esa vaina.
¡Ay! ¡Oh, Dios!
Wow, sí.
On 22nd of February 2012, a Eurocopter AS350 B a Esquilo, registration PT-YAK, operated by the Pará State Fire Department, made an emergency landing in an open field next to the BR-316 highway in Pará, Brazil. While the helicopter was already on the ground, with the main rotor still turning at high speed, it entered ground resonance and violently shook itself apart in just a few seconds. All 4 people on board, 2 pilots, a doctor, and a nurse, escaped with only minor injuries. On 26th of April 2022, a Mexican Navy Mi-17 helicopter was attempting to take off from General Rafael Buelna International Airport in Mazatlán on Mexico's Pacific coast during forest fire support operations. Just after lifting off, it lost control and fell back onto the airfield, hitting the ground hard and breaking apart beside the runway. All 5 naval personnel on board were injured but survived, and the Navy later announced an investigation to determine the exact cause of the accident. On October 27, 2023, in Russia, the pilot of a homemade light aircraft experienced a complete engine failure in flight. Let's see what came out of this. Due to the lack of an engine, he was forced to glide to an open field and perform an emergency landing, carefully controlling his speed and descent throughout the descent. The aircraft came to a safe stop on uneven ground, and the pilot walked away without any injuries. On the 3rd of October 2025, a Robinson R-22 helicopter on a training flight crashed near Bankstown Airport in southwest Sydney, Australia. Dashcam video shows the helicopter clipping power lines and trees before crashing onto a parked car, killing the flight instructor and leaving the 19-year-old student pilot with critical injuries. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau has opened an investigation, and the exact cause of the accident is still under review. In May 2018, in Russia, a weight-shift ultralight trike, a small powered hang glider, was filmed from the ground as it attempted takeoff from a grass field. Shortly after lifting off, it climbed too steeply, lost speed, and slammed back into the ground, collapsing the landing gear and badly damaging the frame. The pilot survived the crash but suffered a serious injury, a broken femur in his upper leg. On January 2, 2021, a Piper PA-24-250 Comanche, on a personal flight from Georgia, was on approach to Oakland Southwest Airport near New Hudson, Michigan. In low cloud and poor visibility, the non-instrument-rated pilot lost control while circling the airport. The airplane stalled, hit a house, and burst into flames. All 3 people on board were killed, and investigators later concluded the crash was caused by loss of control in instrument conditions and the pilot's lack of an instrument rating.
Oh my God.
On November 6, 2020, an Agusta A109S Grand helicopter, N109EX, crashed on the rooftop helipad at Keck Hospital of USC in Los Angeles, California, while delivering a donor heart for transplant. As it came into land, a mechanical failure in the tail rotor system caused the helicopter to spin uncontrollably, hit the pad, and roll onto its side. The pilot suffered only minor injuries. The 2 medical staff on board walked away unharmed, and the heart was recovered and successfully transplanted. On 8 October 2020, a Cessna 414, tail number N8132 Quebec, was taking off from North Palm Beach County General Aviation Airport in West Palm Beach, Florida, with 7 people on board. During the takeoff roll, the pilots found that the flight controls would not move, aborted too late, and the airplane overran the runway, crashing into a marshy pond and suffering heavy damage. All 7 occupants were seriously injured but survived, and investigators later concluded that the accident was caused by a poor pre-flight inspection and the failure to remove the flight control lock before departure. On 24 September 2020, a Quicksilver MX II Sprint ultralight, N9045 Zulu, departed Skylark Field Airport near Killeen, Texas. Shortly after takeoff, the engine lost all power due to a cold seizure, and as the pilot tried to turn back at low altitude, the airplane stalled and crashed inverted in the median of a nearby highway. 2 men on board were killed, but no one on the ground was injured. On 27th of August 2020, a Beechcraft A36 Bonanza, N1550 Golf, was taking off from Benton Field Airport, 085, in Redding, California, with 4 people on board. Security cameras later showed the airplane struggling to accelerate, lifting briefly before settling back onto the runway, overrunning the end, going down an embankment, and bursting into flames. 2 occupants were killed, and 2 were seriously injured. and investigators concluded that the pilot failed to recognize the poor takeoff performance and did not abort the takeoff in time. On 11th October 2018, in Bangladesh, an Airbus helicopter's EC130 B4, registration S2-AHW, was involved in a serious accident during a flight, suffering major damage. The circumstances of the crash were formally investigated by the Air Accident Investigation Group of Bangladesh, AAIG-BD, which issued an official report on the sequence of events. In this video, you are seeing real footage of that incident, based only on the facts released by the investigators.